Hello, hello, and welcome again to another special edition of Build a Beast. What we're doing, if you've just joined us, is we're sharing an elite coaching journey over this year. I've been sharing my journey live on stream with you guys every single week. And essentially what we're doing is trying to master the energy equation. This is something that's been presented by our local expert coaches that have been helping us throughout here. We have a very special edition this week. You guys may have been getting accustomed to seeing Justin here for this show. We have his fiance here, Alyse, to rock and roll with mindset tips. I'm extremely excited. So let's jump into this week's episode of Build a Beast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring our star coach of the evening here with us, Alyse Gaulin. Hello, and welcome to Build a Beast.
Hi, Travis. How you doing? Thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here.
I am equally excited. Today we are tapping into mindset. For everybody that's been joining us, a lot of the stuff we focused on with Justin prior to this was very physical, physical environment, physical health. What we're tapping into today is something potentially, supposedly, even more powerful, our mindset, and how exactly that affects our energy day to day. So we've got a bunch of research and assessments and all kinds of stuff to tap into today. But why don't you just go ahead and set the stage for us, Alyse, of what is the importance of mindset? Why should we be so concerned about this little thing going on up here?
That's a great question. So often, when Justin and I tell people about the energy equation and what it is we do, there's 8 controllables, and Justin's been going through really 6 of those 8 with you guys over the last couple weeks. And although 6 of them are outer energy, 2 of them are inner energy, they are not weighted equally, because we know that this thing actually has 80%, if not 90%, to do with how we show up. So mindset at the end of the day, and how we think, how we make decisions, all of these types of things, is really where it all stems from. So my goal for today with you guys is to just generate awareness. It all begins with awareness. If you've ever heard me speak, I talk a lot about awareness because it's the number one place to start. So really today, what I want to do is kind of set the stage for you guys. We're going to go through the 7 key levels of energy or awareness, and we're going to talk about how we may be able to make decisions from some of these different perspectives. So that's really our goal today. And then next week, we'll jump more into further steps. Once we have awareness, what do we do with it?
I love it. I love it. I know this has been, for me, I can literally feel the positive trajectory of things coming together week after week. So I'm extremely excited to see how this plays out, especially seeing from the outside a lot of the energy equation stuff you guys have mentioned, as well as the 7 levels of energy that you've sort of based this assessment around, is just a whole nother level of thinking and awareness that I was not even aware of. So yeah, really excited to dive into this one today.
Yeah, no, it's a really amazing exercise. So for everybody watching, so you have an idea of the little assessment I ran Travis through. It's called the Energy Leadership Index. And what this is, the main goal of this is to generate awareness, right? So often in life, we tend to operate from what we're used to. We tend to operate from moving to a state of almost reacting subconsciously and not making conscious choices about how or why we're showing up. So the goal with this is to generate awareness and know that at the end of the day, there is a choice. We have a choice in how we show up and why we show up and what our reactions are. And this little assessment that I gave Travis is where it all begins. So there's 7 main levels of energy, and we're going to share with you a quick screenshot to kind of walk you through what this looks like. So Travis, do you mind putting that up on the screen? There we go. So this is what I like to call the 7 levels of energy, or awareness, leadership. It's all really interchangeable. So many people are like, whoa, this is like, a completely foreign language to me. What the heck does this all mean? So I'm going to break this down for you. So as you can see, there's 7 levels with 1 at the center, 7 being at the highest. In the very center of this is our self or our ego. Now, when I say ego, I don't mean the stereotypical version of an ego. Oftentimes when the word ego is used, it's, oh, that person has way too much confidence, or they're even cocky. When I say ego, I'm not necessarily referring to that. What I'm referring to is the purest internal, almost animalistic form of ourselves. So when we make decisions from a place of ego, it's very much so to protect ourselves. And that's what's going on in the center here, is self-preservation or self-protection driven by our ego. Now, levels 1 and 2 are closest to this and are in what I like to call catabolic energy. There's 2 states of energy. There's catabolic and there's anabolic. So levels 1 and 2 are catabolic. Levels 3 through 7 are anabolic. Now, I want you to think of catabolic as stress-related energy. Anything that has to do with stress. When our brain perceives that there's stress going on, there's an actual chemical reaction, releases hormones like adrenaline and cortisol to really push us through those stressful situations. Now, when we're in that level 3 through 7, we are in a higher state of consciousness. We are operating less from that self-preservation mode. And as we're operating from higher levels of energy, I'm going to walk you guys through what each one of these means so that it doesn't feel so fluffy. I know it feels a little fluffy right now, but don't worry. We'll get more detailed on this kind of stuff. But levels 3 through 7 are more anabolic in nature. So I want you to think of it almost as a continuum, with level 1 being at the center, level 7 being at the top. And as we move along these, level 1 is the highest level of stress, highest level of judgment, lowest level of consciousness. And as we go up, consciousness increases, judgment decreases, and stress decreases. So often people say, well, the goal is to be at a level 7 all the time, right? No, actually, that is not our goal, because that does not exist. If we were to be a level 7 all the time, it's essentially godlike. It doesn't exist. But with practice, we can learn to access it. We can learn to make decisions from here. We can learn choose how we want to show up when we move up to this level 7 and choose one of the 6 other levels. And this is the key here. When we choose one of those 6 levels, we're making a conscious choice because it serves us, not making a reactionary choice because of what we're used to. So that's the key here, is to generate some awareness around why we may be showing up in some of these states.
I love it. No, it's the premise of it kind of reminds me of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, you have to kind of start here, then foundationally build. And ultimately, it's this, there is this kind of destination of perfection or goal of it being better, but it's not a permanent state. So I think that's the fully self-actualized version in that world. But in here, it would be like reaching level 7. I see, a lot of people here on board with this one. So thanks for everybody hopping in here. Jeffrey over on LinkedIn, appreciate you jumping in, man. And everybody in the Twitch gang, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Feel free to share questions throughout. I did see one sneak in here. We'll try to do all the questions at the end, but because this is actually fairly relevant, Enrique is asking, what stage are we on when we are meditating? I don't know if it works like that or if
it does actually.
Okay, nice.
It's a great question. Travis, you want to have a guess?
I would guess maybe it's in like 6.5, like 6 or 7, like the
It's
transition
7.
there?
It's 7.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
It
Nice.
is. The best way to access that level 7 energy is through meditation, because level 7
Wow.
is tapping into a higher order or a highest version of our own intuition. And when we do that, we kind of have to clear out all the clutter, because so often our thoughts get caught up in that. And when we can clear that out and move into that level 7 state, the best way to do that, that's a great question, Enrique, is really through meditating. So you kind of beat me to one of my punchlines there, but really great question.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and keep it rolling. I know this is a virtually bottomless pit we could dive into, but I'm loving this thus far. Let's continue the adventure.
Yeah, no, it sure is. So what I want to do next is walk you through each one of the 7 levels of energy. And then Travis, after that, we're going to talk about your results, because the assessment actually measured where you show up, what
Sure.
percent of the time you resonate in each one of these levels. But before we jump into that, I'm going to walk you through each one of these. So
Cool.
sure, you can see at the top that there's a core thought, a core feeling or emotion, and an action or result. So one of the things I want to break down for you guys is how we apply meaning to things, and as an end result, how it impacts the way that we show up. So throughout our entire life, we're generating experiences, right? Like we have experiences that we apply meaning to. And this is a pretty linear thing. I want you to think of this as I'm going across a pretty linear thing. So we're applying meaning, right, to these experiences that we have. As a result, when we apply meaning, we generate beliefs around these experiences that we're having. These beliefs oftentimes are beliefs about ourselves, the world, other people, our partners, our jobs, whatever it may be. When we have this belief, this is where we have the tendency to generate our feelings and emotions. And as a result, our feelings and emotions oftentimes cause us to show up in a certain way. So actually in this chart here, the core belief, the thought, and then the following action, it's almost a linear process between these 3 things. And the goal, we don't generate awareness until that middle pillar, the core feeling or emotion, right? As humans, we don't know that something's coming up until we have that feeling. We're not walking around thinking, well, what's my core thought or belief around this? And why is it making me feel the way that I'm feeling? With work, we can absolutely learn to do this, but naturally, instinctively, we don't go there. It clicks in with the feeling and emotion. And that's why that instinct or that action or result so often just comes from that instinctual place. But when we can learn to tap into that core feeling or emotion and actually go back one step to that core thought or belief, understand why it may be causing us to show up the way that we're showing up, and then choose a different emotion and action. And this is what we're going to get into next week, is how to do this, what this looks like. So don't worry, I'm giving you guys a little bit of a tidbit before we get into next week. But that's where the power and the change in how we show up really happens. So level 1, this is what I like to call our victim energy. And this has to do with any feeling of powerlessness, right? So when we're at that level 1 energy, we have the impression that whatever is happening is outside of our influence or control, leading us to feel feelings of apathy, disconnectedness, overwhelm. All of these things at the end of the day make us feel like probably we're not good enough. Another thing that comes up a lot in level 1 is, I know everybody has it, but it's that little voice in the back of our head that oftentimes is telling us, you're not X enough. Everybody has one. I call it a gremlin. And it's one of those things that oftentimes puts us and keeps us in this level 1 energy. And there's a lot of work for us to understand what it is that's driving this and try to reshape this belief into a positive one. So that's level 1. Now, level 2 is what I like to call conflict energy. So this is where we are acting from a place that conflict exists, right? So frustration, anger, really any sort of that feeling, right? Competition, you versus me. This is that level 2 energy. I know we're all familiar with it. Now, the crazy thing is 80% of people in their lives are resonating in this level 1 and level 2 energy. Even some of level 3, but a lot of people are living in this level 1 and level 2.
Wow.
Now, the even crazier thing, that's in a normal state. And we're going to get into this, Travis, when we look at your results. It measures your reaction in a normal state and your reaction is in a stress state. When we are in a stress state, 95% of us are in level 1 and level 2 energy. And I'm sure anybody can relate.
Wow.
I mean, Travis, when you're stressed, do you have high energy or do you have low energy?
Oh my gosh. Well, not productive energy. I got something going on, but it's certainly not positive.
Yep.
It's some type of energy.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of that catabolic energy. And just by your results, it's some of that level 1 and level 2 that pops up. So we'll get into that more in a little bit, talking about your results.
Wow.
So let's move to level 3. Level 3 is what I like to call putting a Band-Aid on it, right? Level 3 is when we have something that we have to get done. We have a certain goal. We're feeling some of this catabolic energy. This 1 and 2 is popping up, but we have to achieve our desired result, right? We have to make progress. So I'm going to push all this other stuff to the side. I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to move through it. Somebody's talking about Inception. I actually watched that 2 nights ago. It is a fantastic.
Yeah, but be careful getting pulled into the comments. We'll see. We might
I
be
know,
going down
I
a
know.
rabbit hole.
It is. It really is. And actually, I
Love
was
it.
talking about this in relation to Inception. So I just thought,
amazing.
I know. So that level 3 is kind of just slapping a Band-Aid on those things that we may be feeling. But once we start to release and move through what's happening in that catabolic space, we no longer have to put that level 3 Band-Aid on it. We move into some of those higher levels. Mm-hmm. So level 4 is what I like to call the service energy. So a lot of parents reside here for their children, a lot of bosses for the people that work for them. A lot of teachers reside here. At the end of the day, it's putting others ahead of yourself. So to the point of sometimes letting other people go ahead of you. But there's a lot of good in it, right? Like when you help others, when you serve others, a lot of people get energy from it. So there's a really anabolic piece to it, but there's a catabolic effect if we don't put some of those boundaries into place.
Yep.
Oh, is this making sense so far? Do you have any questions?
Yep. No, especially zeroing into that last category sounds eerily familiar of service. But that's why we're here, is to continuously level up and reach the promised land of level 7.
Yep. Exactly.
Love it.
So levels 5, 6, and 7 are the highest levels of anabolic energy. So level 5, I like to call this our opportunistic energy level. This is looking for the win-win. It's really looking for how can both myself and whoever is in this situation with me both win? What are the opportunities? At times, we can even experience paralysis by analysis because we're seeing so many opportunities everywhere. So that's at level 5. Level 6 is what I like to call our flow state energy. So I know everybody has been in a state where they're so present, they're so entrenched in whatever it is that they're doing, that they look up 3 hours later and it's like, oh my gosh, it's 4 o'clock. I thought it was 1 o'clock. What happened? That's level 6, is that ultimate presence and passion. And then level 7, Enrique already guessed this. This is that meditation or that highest level of intuition. So that's that level 7 energy. So now that we have an understanding of what these mean, Travis, shall we take a look at your results?
Oh boy. Yes, let's do it. Oh man. Let's pull this to a full screen. Drop here. All right, folks. No, this is a non-judgment. Remember, we're trying to reach level 7, which is non-judgment.
But remember, we can't fully reach level 7 because it doesn't exist, right?
True.
But how can we reside more there?
Sure.
So this is your energetic profile. This is how you would react in a normal situation, right? When things are going normal for you, when there's not a stressful situation to be perceived, right? So your number one tendency, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. You already felt it intuitively, is that level 4. Your secondary is that level 6. And these blue bars represent the amount of time, the percentage of time that you tend to spend in these levels. So I always like to break it down as a primary and a secondary, because those are the that you are most likely to move to. Doesn't mean you don't experience these other levels, right? Everybody experiences every single one of these levels, but it's the combination in which you experience them and the percentage in which you're at these levels that's unique to you. So let's talk about what this level 4 and level 6 interplay looks like. So I would say you tend to think from your heart. Would that be true?
Yeah, in most cases.
In most cases, but
I try to avoid it in business context, but it doesn't work very well. So yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Yep. So the really interesting thing about this is levels 3 and level 5 are directly related, and levels 4 and level 6 are directly related. So level 3 and level 5 comes from a head space. Levels 4 and level 6 comes from a heart space. And then that level 7 is that intuition. That's the power. That's that thing that we don't really name what it is, but sometimes you just can't put your finger on it, but it's there. That's that level 7. And so one of the things in this that happens in this level 4, that's a potential risk, is at times we can tend to, let's paint a picture, right? You have your business partner, your life partner, your kids, your boss, your teachers of your children, your family, your parents, everybody around you saying, Travis, I need something. Travis, I need something. And you resorting to that level 4 energy wants to show up and say yes, even if at the end of the day, it may be harming you. So the goal here is to put some boundaries in place. And when you're able to put boundaries in place where you say, you know what, I have to use my best yes here. And I know that this is going to come in between myself and the best version of myself. I have to say no. Please respect that. That is what allows you, putting those boundaries in place is what allows you to move up to that level 6. Because when we, from a level 6 perspective, it's so much so that my success is your success and my failure is your failure. So if at the end of the day you're failing and you're not feeling at your best, you will not be successful for that person that you're showing up. So what are your thoughts on that, Travis? I'm curious to hear what you think.
Just as we were talking about in the pre-chat, these have been my favorite moments of stuff I've always kind of felt and thought was the case, and being able to see the data or the numbers to support it. And then even, it'll be cutting ahead of the curve here, but being able to do something about it. It's one thing to feel like, wow, maybe I shouldn't volunteer 80% of my working hours and time to other people. But how do we make those action items come to life? So I'm more excited about that part, but in the moment, I'm excited to have that reinforcement of like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy here. There is actually a method to this madness. Some of the stuff I've thought for a long while, like coming out of college, I was pulled towards the nonprofit world. I think because of that kind of that service-based mentality. Well, there's our guest star puppy adventures. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. That's essentially, the part I've been most excited about, to know my sanity is intact. A lot of the intuition I've thought and felt for a while definitely has room for improvement, to pull a little bit out of that 100% service-based mentality. I think if I could level up closer to that 6 zone, which I think has been sort of the trend in the last year, I'll be in a super satisfied spot as far as just total life satisfaction.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And that's one of the things is it allows you to generate the awareness of where you can level up, where you have room for growth, because at the end of the day, level 4 is a really good thing, right? Like, it feels really good to be able to have people depend on you and to be able to show up for them and make a difference in their lives, right? Like, there's a lot of good energy in that. But the cautionary piece of it is when it goes too far, right? Like you said, giving away, maybe I shouldn't give away 80% of my time, right? And it's figuring out what some of those boundaries are that allows you to be in level 6 even more of the time. So love to hear you say that. Should we talk about your stress reaction now? This is the fun part.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let me pull this bad boy up again, and we're going back in. Oh boy.
We sure.
Whoa, baby.
Yep.
Oh boy.
95% of people's
Wow.
stress reactions look exactly like this.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
And I'm going to say one more thing. Of people that I have done this work specifically with, 100% of their reactions look like this.
Okay.
So this is super common, nothing to feel bad about. So let me talk to you a little bit about the difference between that top box and this bottom box. So that top box is when everything's normal, right? Things are going good. Travis, probably how you are right now, right? You're not in a stress state. You're probably living in that top box. Now, an event has to happen, whether it could be something as minor as sitting in traffic, getting bumped into somebody at the store or on the street, missing a phone call that you've been expected, all the way up to something much more intense, like the death of a loved one, the loss of a job, the argument with your significant other. Like, there's different intensities in here, right? And that will determine the amount of time that we spend here, right? Because if you're sitting in traffic, you're going to be here a lot shorter than, if you just lost your job. So that's the one cautionary thing I want to say about this. Now, your primary level 1, secondary level 2. Now, that means that when you perceive a situation to be stressful, you often resort to that more egoic reaction, that self-preservation mode. And this is where we tend to react based on what we're used to, right? Like, when we're stressed, we're not really thinking about our reactions. We're not really saying, let me take a minute to meditate. Let me think about how I want to react to this stressful situation, right? That's, as humans, that's not something that we generally tend to practice. And so that's why so many of us are in this level 1 and level 2 state, is because we react from a fear-based position as opposed to from a love or strength-based position. So, seeing this, what do you think?
I see room for improvement, I suppose. I mean, it's reassuring to know it's normal, but it also has, like, I come from, when approaching my lifestyle or business or personal or professional life, I think of freedom and control. Often they interoperate. I love having the freedom and control to control my day, my schedule. In the business context. In the personal context, I enjoy having control of my life, my emotions. This signal, however, indicates that there are moments or periods or eras, if they last longer, of relinquishing that control or being operating on that lower frequency. And I've felt it in prior, like, super stressed, awful relationships, like I'm operating from a terrible energy. And then immediate panic or trauma. I don't do super great in that situation. I saw a few people here saying they get super feisty or like physical. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds familiar. So my overarching concern is, how do I prevent being in that state, that lower frequency that kind of brings you down to your monkey brain, your survival, because that's typically, in most cases, that's not the person I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
it's like your only option to survive or like something. But then I think it becomes, just a poor energy to tap into. So anything that could avoid that entirely is kind of my overarching concern of, okay, I understand that's normal, but how do we reduce or prevent that would be
Yeah,
kind of the
absolutely.
overarching.
So I'm going to answer that in two ways. The first way is I'm going to say we're going to answer that in a much longer way next week, is how to
Yes. Okay.
manage some of those reactions. We're going to dig much deeper into what that looks like, some strategies we can use.
Cool.
But the short answer that I will give you today is you talked about operating from both a freedom and a control state. Freedom, level 7. Control, level 2. So what I would suggest is, knowing that, operate from a freedom mindset, right? When you're feeling like I have to control the situation in order to assure a win, that is the definition of level 2. But when you knock the cap off of it and you say, actually, I have the freedom to design the solution here, to design my life, to design the way that I move forward, right? I'm not going to resist my emotions. I'm not going to resist everything that's coming at me, because it's happening for a reason, right? Like there's a reason why all this stuff is being thrown at me. When you start to change the lens, and that's what I was talking about and why we'll do more work on it, is when we go back to that belief, right? Your belief is, I have to control the situation in order to get by and assure a win. And when you move it into that more positive belief, that's, I believe and I know that I have the freedom to show up the way that I want to in the situation. Try it on this week. See what happens. Like, let's talk about it next week. Did anything change? Did you come from a different mindset? So that's my short answer for you.
Love it. Love it. No, this is brilliant. And I see, we've got a ton of activity here in the chat. I'll try and scroll through. We are approaching the second half of the show, so anybody here that is hanging with us, feel free to drop your questions for Alyse with us here in the chat, and we will tackle as many of those as we can. And then I saw a super simple one, I think from Sultan, asking how to start this test and to start this adventure, figuring out their energy level, their stress responses, all of that. How do they get started on this adventure you are so expertly insightful on?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the easiest way is to just send me an email.
There we go. Let's fire that up. What is the email? I'll just throw it on screen here real quick.
Sure. It's alyse@justownit.co.
Boom. All right. So that will be the way to hop in and start the adventure. Go ahead and just email Alyse. She'll hook you up. And this has also been, if for those of you that haven't connected the dots, Own It is the master program of Alyse and Justin. They've been rocking and rolling with a really wide spectrum of athletes and business owners, entrepreneurs of all kinds. So anybody that is curious about mastering this energy equation, I know a lot of you guys have been joining us live, but if you want the real deal, the full thing, please do pursue their adventures. They've got all kinds of brilliant content, programs, and stuff that'll keep you on track that I've been super grateful to be a part of. So let's start scrolling. If there's anything you see in the chat that you want to call out, Alyse.
I think someone asked if we can just show that energy self-perception chart with the 7 levels. So Travis, I have my screen if you want to share that again.
You got it. It is up at the moment. We got a nice little picture-in-picture action. So if there's
Yeah.
anybody wants to snag a quick little uh, peek at this bad boy, this has been kind of the anchor point of what we're talking about today. On the awareness level, to even understand what level you're at, and then next week for everybody that joins us again, we'll be going into the counterpart of that. What action items? How do we actually level up to higher levels of energy? And yeah, I'm nerding out and loving it. So if there's any specific things that people need to know about these graphics or these tests, feel free to sort of set the appropriate context. And that'll be up. Okay. So we have our, let me just pull the screen share off again. A decent amount of questions. Excuse me while I'm trying to just scroll through all. Um, just a sec. I don't know if this was a serious question or a troll question, but I'm curious. Um, what does where does sex relate to our energy levels? We have
Yeah.
a question in here from Gabe that I'm never sure if he's just trying to stir things up or if he's genuinely asking.
Yeah,
But
no,
what does
actually,
that play into our energy levels and equations?
yeah, I actually think it's a great question. So that would be level 6 and level 7. And reason for that is because oftentimes when we're in that state where we tend to be more present and in the moment, and those higher levels are levels of true presence.
Mm, brilliant. Well, there you go, Gabe. I don't know if you were poking or if that was serious, but it was a brilliant one. Drew's asking, do we get to watch the results of the therapy session after this? No, thankfully my ego is intact with these, knowing I'm at a fairly normal-ish response. Let me see. Anybody else? Yeah, feel free to drop a question here while we're wrapping up. I'm just seeing if there was anything earlier in the show worth resurfacing, but it looks like just a lot of people supporting, loving this. Um, oh, here's another
Awesome.
good one from Gabe. Let's jump in. How does one begin understanding themselves when they have high anxiety or something like PTSD?
So that's a great question. And that's something that a lot of my clients actually do suffer from anxiety. This is actually a great method to pair with therapy. There's a lot of clients who use what they're learning in therapy, bring it into these coaching sessions, and we build on them. Because actually, the difference between therapy, right? I'm not a therapist. I'm not somebody who's trained to deal with, high anxiety or PTSD or depression or those types of things. But when they're working with somebody who is trained to do those things, they take everything that they're learning and want to build on them and turn it into an action-based model. The magic between those two types of self-work is amazing. I've gone through it myself.
Mm,
I'm not afraid to say I've been through therapy for 10 years. I have a therapist and a coach, right? Coaches need coaches. And it's like such a good way to do a lot of this self-work.
love it. Love it. No, thank you guys so much for hopping in here, joining the conversation. Yeah, poking a few of these questions that are sneaking in. But, it says, Jackie's saying Enrique had a question. Let me hunt that one down real quick. Or if I missed anything, feel free to just drop it again. I'm playing the scrolling games. Maybe this one was it. What do you think of Hemi Sync? Maybe you know what that is because I don't.
I would say I don't think about it because I don't know what it is.
There we go. There you go, Enrique. If there's any sort of context or follow up, feel free to share that. And we are reaching this point of the show. What energy level does eating avocado fall in?
Yeah, I
I
saw that
guess
one.
depends how much you like avocado. I guess in
That's
the
exactly what I was
ultimate
going to
state,
say.
you might reach level 7 if you love avocados that much.
Exactly. How do you feel when you're eating avocado? Based on that feeling, that's the level you're in. For some people, it could be level 2. They may hate avocado toast.
Yeah,
You said,
love
Travis,
it.
for some people, could definitely be level 7.
Ryan coming in from Alaska. I'd love to have a discussion about leadership and energy. I can see the parallels with athletics as well. Ryan, I know you've had a little bit of context, and you may already even know or have seen the episodes with Justin, but that's actually the entire premise of this Build a Beast program is how to maximize my personal energy, and now we're just now getting into like the mindset portion of it that I hope to use in a lot of leadership and community building contexts. So there's all of the prior episodes to tap into previous conversations about exactly this, and then join us, for next week and the final few episodes where we're tying this all together and turning it into action items. What does this mean? What do we do with all this information? So you're in the right place, brother. Just follow up, stay in the loop, and this is exactly what we're trying to do here. So before we stumble into any more fruit and vegetable questions, I think we are good to go. I'm just doing a quick little sweep, and it looks like we're probably solid. So transitioning from this week into next week, Alyse, what type of things can I or we focus on? I think we'll share the energy equation link. There was a decent amount of people interested here. And then moving into next week, is there anything we can do or track or keep top of mind, essentially, for like our homework, jumping in from awareness into next week, controlling our mindset in a productive way?
It's a great question. So I would say homework for this week is super easy. Generate awareness. Start to perceive life through these 7 levels. When are you showing up in a level 4? When do you have a stressful state that drops you down to that level 1 and level 2? And how is it showing up? Why is it showing up? Because what I want to do next week is bring some of those situations in, Travis. What I would love to have you do is bring maybe a stressful situation for us next week that we can talk about and actually move you to an action state. So I would say that's the biggest homework is generate your awareness this week. Where are you seeing the 7 levels show up in your life? It's everywhere.
Love it. Oh, man. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Well, the adventure continues, folks. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And another episode of Build a Beast. We're keeping it rocking and rolling. We got a few more weeks left before we wrap up with the finale. I got more DNA details to jump into, some solid action items next week, all kinds of things for y'all to level up your life. So let's drop a big thank you for Alyse. She is tagged on the LinkedIn side, so please hop in on the LinkedIn, connect with her, or just simply send an email to go ahead and get started, or if you'd like to work with these guys, really just high level stuff going on over there. So grateful for you sharing your time and your expertise with us today. Thank you so much, Alyse, and thank you everybody else for joining another episode of Build a Beast.